This is week 6 of the 52 weeks of picks. This week's theme, shoes. Okay, here you see we have a little dollhouse set up. This is my daughter's old dollhouse. From when she was younger, we still had the toys sitting in the basement, so I rummaged through and we found some shoes in there for this week's theme. I'm going to do a little Cinderella theme where, looks like she's missing her slipper. So, how I have this set up is I have a flash set off to the right, and that's going to be remotely triggered by the Yongnuo flash trigger. And we have our power here set to 1/64th power at 50 millimeters, which is the zoom that's on the flash. We're relatively close, maybe 2 feet away from the actual subject, and in front of the flash we have set up a light diffuser. That's nothing more than like a regular utility light, or a regular light you would see in maybe a school building or something. It's just a diffusion cover. It was a piece that somebody was throwing away and I decided to grab. Alright, and on the left side of our little Cinderella character over there, we have another flash, which is going to be triggered by the flash because it's set to slave. And that is also set to 1/64th power, but our zoom on there is 105 millimeters. And that one's about a foot, maybe a foot and a half away from our subject. And I have a little diffuser of tissue paper set up over the front of that. And then up top here, you can see we have our camera. And our settings on the camera is 1/80th of a second. Let me put that back down so it's a little easy to focus on. It's at 1/80th of a second at f11. I'm going to be getting pretty close in this image to begin with, so f11 is still going to give us a little bit of depth of field. So it shouldn't be too bad. And then we have it set our ISO at 200. And I have a custom white balance set, which I used our little diffusion panel over here on the right, kind of like an expo disc would be used. And I set the flash off and took the picture and set the custom white balance on the camera. And on top of the camera, you can see we have the Yongnuo trigger, which will trigger the other flash that was on there. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, I'm going to get in here and start shooting. And my camera's on. And I'm going to focus on her feet. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not blocking this light here with my hand or my head. I'm going to switch my focus point. Trying to get a low vantage point because, of course, our subject here is the shoes. And, of course, Cinderella doesn't know. She's like, what's going on here? I need my shoes. I'm going to turn back into a pumpkin over here. Or does she even turn into a pumpkin? I don't know. I don't remember Cinderella's story. All I know is she's missing her slipper. She wants a slipper. That's what Cinderella's really after. I'm not sure if I like the boot that way. Maybe turn it this way. See how that works. Just trying to build a little variety here with the shoes. I'm going to take the same picture over and over again. I think that looked pretty good. Cinderella, Cinderella, where are your shoes? Alright, well, maybe I'll try a landscape version of it and see how that works. It's worth a try. I have it set up, I might as well play around with it. And I don't think that works as well as the portrait mode, so. Alright, I will see you guys in Photoshop. Now that we've made it into Adobe Bridge, you can see I have the images here that you saw in the previous video. These first are 5 images. And then I have this other image over here which is not color balanced or anything. This is actually the image I decided to use. I just like the way everything else was set up in it, the way the shoes were set up in it. Unfortunately, like I said, it was my test shot. It was the very first shot that I took, but it happened to be the one that I liked. So it was set at ISO 1600, which, you know, on most cameras now isn't too bad, but it did generate some noise. So I decided to turn this into a black and white. So I'm going to double click the image here to open it up into Camera Raw. And to start off, to correct the color balance, I'm going to use the white balance tool, a little eyedropper here, and I'm just going to click on this little bench looking thing. It's supposed to be white, so that's why I'm clicking on that. At least that's what I know it was white in the image. This is also white too, but this is what I chose to use here. And I want to increase the exposure here because it is a bit dark. And I'm going to go pretty high. Maybe come down a little bit. And then increase the contrast because I'm going to turn this into a black and white. So contrast is usually something good that helps out a black and white image. Looks pretty cool there. Any more than that, and I start introducing some aberrant noise and stuff in here, and it looks just really weird. I'm just going to raise the whites a little bit. Yeah, I'm looking up here. I don't want to push this too far. Coming over to here, it starts clipping in the reds, so it's going to bring that down a little bit more. Maybe around there. Looks pretty good. And I think we open this up in Photoshop now. I'm going to open it up as an object. In Photoshop here, we can convert this into a black and white image by using a black and white adjustment layer. I try to work as non-destructive as possible, so black and white adjustment layer. You can see it automatically changes it over to black and white, but I want to bring out the dress a bit here. And remember, what color was the dress? It's like a bluish purplish color in there, so by bringing down these blues, we'll darken that dress up. That looks pretty good. And maybe a little bit of the magentas here. We'll lower that down too. And maybe these little sparkles here. Raise this up. Maybe we'll bring some of that up in there. A little bit more. Looks good there. And maybe raise these yellows a little bit. Try and bring some attention to the legs and the shoes over here. Go pretty high with that. And these shoes over here, yeah, those are the red shoes. And these, we're going to make those go dark. Lower this down. Start going too low though, you get this weird look down here again. Maybe just click on this and just hit the arrow keys here. We kind of formed a little triangle here of shoes. And within this is, you know, it's brighter, so the eye usually goes to a lighter area of the image, so we want to have our subject, and obviously this is in focus over here, so this is kind of where I want your eye to be drawn to. And we add this little tone to it now, and to add that tone I'm going to go to a gradient map here. And you could technically, you know, hit the tint button and then add your tone in there, but I like to do it with a gradient map because you can map it to each color will have its own area. So like the blacks here, anything that's black or in the dark areas, if I can open this up, will go to the color. I have the hexadecimal number here. I'm just going to type that in, which is kind of a bluish color. And on the other end here, I'll open this up, and the hexadecimal for this one is F9C342, which is the complementary color of blues, is usually in the oranges. And then to make it blend in a little better, I'm just going to change it to soft light and just lower the opacity of it a bit, just to give it a nice little hint of it, not so it overpowers it and takes over the whole image, but just a little bit, so you can see. Just adds a little character to the image. And I wanted to add a little vignette here to draw the eye in a little bit more, so I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to stamp these layers together by hitting Control Alt Shift and E. That would be Command Alt Shift E on a Mac. And I'm going to right click on the layer and convert it to a smart object. And now go to Filter and Lens Correction. And in the Lens Correction dialog box, go over to the Custom tab. And here you can add a vignette. If you go to the right, it brightens it, and we'll add a light vignette, and to the left, we'll darken it, which is what I'd like to do, is darken it to bring the attention into the middle here. And I'm just going to lower the midpoint so it creeps in on it a little bit more. And right around there looks pretty good. And then just hit OK. And now that is editable. If I wanted to go back and made a mistake, I could just double click on the lens correction again and go back and customize, and I could re-edit that. But I think it looks good the way it is. And there you have it. There's the final image. Go to full screen here. And there you go. Alright guys, I will see you next week. Bye.